Yeah. Yeah. What was that? That was the Turtles, wasn't it? When is it Raphael's pushing like the thing at the start of Turtles 2? Don't listen, whatever. Anyway, good start to the show, Jim. Yeah, thanks. Anyway, this is NBA Straya. How you going? How you going? It's Tuesday, November 12. And this is, I don't know, the start of a brand new era for NBA Straya where we just try to do a quick Tuesday show and we see how we go, and then Jim turns around 45 minutes later going, that was no quicker. But anyway, it is a Tuesday show. So Tuesday, November 12, all day. This is also a fun day. We're in the fancy studio. We're going to talk a little bit of news. We're going to wrap the games, but then we're just going to preview the NBA Cup. Is that good? I think it's good because it starts tomorrow. And just as a bit of a refresher, we'll take you through all the permutations, all the groups and all that sort of stuff, and then preview the games because they're NBA Cup games tomorrow. So that's what we're going to do. That's all today's show is. Good? I bloody well hope so. So, you know, we're going to stick with this format and see how we go with the Tuesdays. Because the thing is, this is the time crunch, you see. I've got, we've got NFL Australia straight after this and all sort of gear. I think the Miami-LA Rams game is still going. So that's on me. I hope Gaz is watching that one. Anyway, so let's get into it without any further ado. This is episode 1152. Dose of NBA Straya. Let's go!
This is Josh Giddey.
G'day, this is Andrew Gay.
This is Jack White.
This is Joe Ingles.
This is Darcy Daniels.
This is Chris Anstey.
This is Matthew Delvedova.
This is Shane Hill.
Hi, this is Ryan Brockhoff.
This is Mitch Creek.
This is Mick Kay.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening and watching NBA Straya.
This is NBA Australia. Let's do it.
Watch out for the Shaq Attack.
You better. I tell you what, well, you better watch out for the floor attack if you're Chet Holmgren. Jeez, we'll get to that in a second. But you should also watch out for the attack of SGA not getting 4 rebounds if you're my betting today. Jeez. But we did nail the picks. Went 4 or 5 on today's games. Just keep that in mind. Just saying, that's pretty bloody good. And in terms of the Shaq Attack, it is, look, I keep going back to this. What is it? Shaq-alicious, those gummies. Somebody has to hook me up. Like, old mate, she's going overseas next week, and I'm like solo dadding for a week, which is just like staring down the barrel of going to jail. But that's fine. It's cool. They're rad. I like them. But my one ask for her will be to bring back like a thing of Shaq-alicious XL gummies. That's all I want. That's all I want. Makes an entire week of putting up with 2 crazy, just lunatic squids all worth it. You should also watch out for the Jeff Teague attack, or at least the Steven Jackson attack if you're Jeff Teague, El Jefe Teague. Now, I don't put a giant amount of stock in player-led podcast shows, etc. I just don't have enough time, right? Most of them are self-aggrandizing bullshit. But Jeff Teague is a very unique individual who is a very, very weirdly engaging storyteller. And he was just telling the story, like, and it goes for a while. And you're like, this is like one of the Neil Hamburger jokes. Is like, have you heard of the band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers? I love me some Neil Hamburger. But Jeff Teague sort of gets to this point where he's just talking shit to Steven Jackson the entire game when he's a rookie. And basically Steven Jackson hits like a game winner and just fucking Jeff Teague runs away. And it's like the only game winner that Steven Jackson's ever hit. He's on the show. It's just fucking great. And I very much enjoyed that story. And that's the sort of shit that I ever only want from player-led shows and stuff. It's like, hey, Shaq, tell us what Kobe didn't take no guff from anybody. It's like, yeah, no shit. But tell us cool Kobe stories. Like, that's all we want, right, basically. Anyway, watch out for the Shaq-alicious attack. That's what I'm trying to say. I just need a pack of those gummies. Right, let's start today's show the way we start every show here at NBA Show with the Daily. Whip around. I'll tell you what, tough one. We hit on this yesterday. Chet Holmgren's injury. It came out, I think, I want to say exactly 23 minutes after yesterday's show was published. You're like, come on, man, Shams, you could have like come out with that earlier. He's got a fractured pelvic hip thing. Not a medical doctor, just to remind you, but it's a pelvic fracture, and you're like, that's not great. It's the right iliac wing fracture. And you're like, that sounds wildly painful because it's 8 to 10 weeks. And you're like, geez, that sucks. So their entire thing is he's expected to return this season. And you're like, well, you'd bloody well hope so. But 8 to 10 weeks, it's one of those nebulous ones. You're like, oh, yeah, but it's a fucking hip pelvis kind of just, you don't, again, it's the same with backs. You don't screw with it. So that looked brutal when he hit the ground. And this is what I kind of hit on this yesterday in yesterday's show. He's really skinny. Like if he was a fat bastard like me, you'd fall and you're like, oh, geez, a hit, but I've got at least a bit of cushioning there. She's all right. You know, you pop back up, groaning the entire time. But that stinks. That absolutely stinks for OKC. They still had no problem. Well, they had a few problems today. We'll get to that in the game wraps. But it's just a brutal sort of talk about momentum a lot on this show. That's what we do, right? And like lineup momentum is a big thing. Just the continuity. It makes your life that much easier. OKC are very deep, except for in the one area of anyone taller than 6'7". They're basically bereft outside of Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. And now they're both injured. So great job by the Clippers by not going to Zoobs, their giant, 7-foot big man today, more than a couple of times in the first half and going, why did we lose this guy? Oh, good job, Ty Lue. Just amazing coaching from him. But anyway, Chet, that sucks. A pelvic fracture. I did have, I believe, our man Timmy M. He sent me a very funny meme of Chet. I love a Futurama meme. Like I'm all Futurama all the time. Like my hair's bloody fry at this point. So the thing was the death by snoo snoo, that meme where they're like wearing the casts around their hips because they've been rooting so much. I fucking lost it. I'm like, that is just top-notch memery. That's good. Anyway, I feel sad for Chet, don't get me wrong. But put him in one of those and I'll laugh my ass off. Other news, Dame Lillard is out tomorrow against the Raptors. I mean, if you're going to miss a game with a concussion, you'd hope that it's against the Raptors. Unfortunately, concussions are a pain in the ass when it comes to every sport, but when it comes to NBA, there's no exact sort of return to play sort of timetable, which is obviously brutal, but he's going to at least miss this game. Fingers crossed it's not worse and longer because the Bucks, I don't know if you heard, like on yesterday's show, but they're shit. And they really need to not be shit for like a little bit and then we'll be good. So he's in the concussion protocol. He's not going to play against the Raptors and we'll see what happens. I think, Giannis is also questionable for that next game. So the Bucks, I mean, geez, we'll talk about the NBA Cup in a second, but yikes. Anyway, the other little bits and bobs, Anthony Davis also caught one in the eye against the Raptors. Talk about just dudes who can't not get hurt every time they step on a bloody court. Anthony Davis was already dealing with like plantar fasciitis or whatever it was in his foot. He was like, yeah, my foot's rooted. Oh, my eye. He's 100% one of those dudes in like a cartoon where like he's just walking along and an anvil drops on his fucking head, right? That's Anthony Davis right there. Outside of that, we also had Malik Monk out for 2 weeks. The hell is this? And so I've sort of hit on this a little bit on NBA Straya before, but this is like what we used to get at the very, very start of the season. So what are we? We're like almost 4 weeks into the season this week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And usually when you'd have a preseason, you cop all these injuries just before the season starts or in the first week and you're like, this is horrible. Now we've just pushed all the injuries back because no one plays in preseason and then like 2-3 weeks in the season is like, hurt, ow, hurt. And it just sucks. So Malik Monk out at least 2 weeks for the Kangs, which is, again, continuity, right? This is a really, really annoying injury for the Kings because they had a very predictable, as called by me on yesterday's show, loss to the Spurs today, but they had been playing pretty well. Like that win over the Suns was really good. It just sort of sucks. So fingers crossed he's back soon. Speaking of back, we've got 2 players who are back tomorrow-ish. I don't know when Detroit play, but anyway. All-Star Thompson, one of the Thompson twins, not the singers, the basketball players. I think All-Star's the better one. Question mark? Which I think is funny. It's the twins. They should be the same. But anyway, he had blood clotting issues, which is no laughing matter. Again, not a medical doctor, but seriously, like, it's just not. And he's been cleared from the blood clot stuff, which is really, really good because remember, that has, in fact, like, put a kibosh on Chris Bosh's career. We also had Mirza Teletovic. Jeez, I pulled that one from the back of the old scone. Also had his career cut a little bit short. At the same time, Mirza Teletovic might have been just punching durries in between timeouts. He very much looked like the one remaining NBA player who smoked, like, during games. I love Mirza Teletovic. He was there in Brooklyn while I was there. Legend dude. But the big one is obviously Joel Embiid, who has served his 3-game suspension. I love that the Sixers took my advice and went, no, he was ready last week. So the 3-game suspension, he's already done that, right? Right? Isn't that right, Joel? And he's like, yeah, sure. Anyway, so he's back tomorrow. That's cool. The Sixers just taking the piss. I love it. Adam Silver's going to have Daryl Morey killed. Anyway, let's do some very brief game wraps before we get into the NBA Cup preview. Game wraps. Let's do it. We had 5 games today. 5 very, very weird and interesting ones. It feels like this was like the most Monday night schedule you'll ever get in the NBA as well. I'll tell you that much. When we used to live over there, you'd very much, I don't know, it's kind of weird because we get these on like a Tuesday morning. We don't think really in terms of, the US time frame at which some of these games happen. But Monday nights, Tuesday nights, sometimes as well, when you're over there, like that's NBA TV night. Like it's just, they're the crummy games that get like shunted onto NBA TV. Every so often you get some good ones. Like that's because there's just 30 teams playing all the time. It's bound to happen. And today's games are actually wildly fun. Like heaps of them came down to the wire. I was in here with producer Gerald screaming at the Brooklyn Nets to not screw up against the Pelicans and lose my bet. Anyway, and stuff like this is like a really, really 100%. This is an NBA TV night. Like you got the 5 games, none of them barn burners, but all pretty entertaining. You had an SGA Cup. You had like a Battle of the Midway. What else was there? I don't know. Brooklyn playing New Orleans. Don't know. You had a Rusty Westbrook Cup as well. Like the teams that he sort of just went, hello, played for like a year and then pissed off again in the Wizards and the Rockets. Anyway, let's start with Cleveland versus the Bulls. This game was really, really rambunctiously fun because the Bulls looked like they were going to give the Cavs their first loss of the season. And the Bulls did what the Bulls do, which is go, fuck, should we play defense? And they go, maybe not. And the Cavs are like, we are the best team in the NBA right now. We haven't lost. So check this out. Bang, 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 bang. And off they went. Kicked some ass, took some names. Donnie Mitchell just goes off for 38. They win at 119-113. And they were down pretty heftily in this third quarter. And this came steaming back right over the top of the Bulls. And this is why I picked the Cavs yesterday. And it's why I love the Cavs, because they can just do it in every which way. Like, I think the coolest part was you had these moments where, they get to 12-0 because you've got 12 points from the minivan, George Niang. You get 12 points from my sweet baby, Karis LeVert. And you get 12 points from, of course, the legend himself, Ty Jerome, off the bench. 36 points, just like that, off the bench. God, that's good. They shot the piss out of as well, those 3. And so when you this is why I love this Cavs team so much. And that's why Kenny Atkinson rules for it as well, right? So 15, 11, and 2 for Mobley. You had 9, 5, and a couple of assists for Go the Fro, Jared Allen. And Donnie knocks in 7 threes on 16 tries for his 36 points. 4 steals as well, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. Crushed it. And Darius Rucker, Judy Garland. He absolutely put Vooch in a blender at the end of this game and just basically tore the heart out of the Bulls, and they just didn't have a chance again. Whereas for the Bulls, Gids was leading all scorers for way too long for this game, which is not Josh Giddey's entire reason d'etre, right? That's Levine. He ends up with 26, 20 for Kobe White, and 20 for Vooch. He had Patch Williams, 13 and 10. But Patch Williams, he shoots 5 of 13. He goes 3 of 7 from downtown. So Patch Williams misses 4 threes. All 4 of those, I guarantee, were wide open. It's like, I understand that he's gone 3 of 7. But the 3 that he hit, you're like, yes, it's because you're wide open. How did you not hit the other 4 where you were wide open? He's like, well, it's averages. I'm like, but just be better, Patch. You're killing me. Anyway, and their bench stinks. You know, they got 10 points from Ayo. They got 4 points from Dalen Terry and 2 from Sonogo, and that is it. Yeah, that's a big difference. Anyway, Chicago 4-7, Cleveland 12-0. Love that. Wizards got steamrolled by the Rockets. Could have seen this one coming, 107-92. Could have seen it coming, and I did. I mean, we talked about it on yesterday's show. They have not lost a game by less than 13 points. Boom, they lose by 15. That does bring their average loss down, though, because it was at 20.5. So, Şengün Alpi, he goes for 27-17. Bub Carrington has 10.6, whatever. This game stunk. Like, I was watching bits of it just going, nah. Washington, And I hit on this in yesterday's show. Like, there's good losses and there's bad losses, and Washington, like, we'll just have all the bad losses. Like, I get that you're playing the kids, but wow, it's painful to watch. Anyway, they're 2-7. Rockets 7-4. Nets 107. Pelicans 105. This game was a rip snorter because, of course, it was. It was so bad. Like, the Pelicans got nobody. And look, this is one of my big things on the AFL Today show is that I hate when commentators refer to players by their first name or each other by their first name. And sometimes in the NBA, like when you don't have the national coverage, you've got obviously the local callers. I absolutely hate when they just call like their team by their first names. Like, and there goes Brandon. It's like, there's fucking 3 Brandons on that team. Blow it out your ass. What are you doing? Seriously, what the fuck? Anyway, it's like, is that Brandon Ingram or Brandon Boston Jr.? I don't know, because you're calling a shit game, you idiots. Just use their fucking names. Anyway, still, Box Hill Benny comes off the bench, was very, very, very good, which is great. We'll talk about him later. We're going to do a very brief Australian play watch for the Aussies. But he gave him a little bit of a boost because Cam Thomas had the 17 points, wasn't quite just like launching it. And the Nets were probably better for it. Like, there was a really good balance. But at the same time, it took absolutely everything the Nets have to get by a Pelicans team that doesn't have 6 of their 7 best players. That's a lot of your best players who you don't have. I'm just saying. Like, what are we doing here? They started Brandon Spindles Ingram. Brandon! Which one? I don't know. Missy, Grand Theft Alvarado, Trey Murphy, and Brandon Boston. Oh, Trey Murphy's back at least. So. But that's it. It's just like, that's horrible. They got 24 and 9 assists from Spindles, 17 from Eves Missy, the rookie, and 11 rebounds. He's been awesome, BT Dubs. Just saying. Considering they don't have a center, the Pelicans, like drafting a center and playing him, that's smart, I guess. Outside of that, no one was doing shit. You had Justin Robinson-Earl with 15 off the bench. The Nets, though, they get the 12 from Zaire Williams, just 2 offensive rebounds, scored on both, like just crushed it. You had 15 for Cam Johnson, hit 3 of 7 from 3. 13 and 9 for Claxton. Then he should that. I am German Rondo at 14. And you had the 17 I mentioned for Cam Thomas. That's really good balance. The Nets don't suck. And maybe Jordi Fernandez is just a really good coach. Maybe. Or maybe they're just going to, at some point, go, hang on a second, pull the pin. It's like Utah 2 years ago. It was like, wait a minute, we're too good. Screw this. You're traded, you're traded, you're traded. You're sitting, you're sitting, you're sitting. That's what they should be doing. Come on, Brooklyn. What are you doing? This team's... The thing is, they're 5 and 6. There's 2 teams in the East that are above 500 at this point. The entire conference stinks, so maybe they should just stick with it and it might end up with home court in the playoffs. Anyway, Pelicans 3-8, they are bad, and as mentioned, though, that's all due to injuries. Clippers Thunder was a really, really fun game, 134-128. The Thunder win it because SGA had 45. Couldn't get me one more rebound, SGA. Bloody hell. 9 assists, 5 steals, and Norm Powell got the Clippers right back into this at the end of the third quarter. They're getting their asses kicked. They're down like, 14, 15? And he just goes absolutely ballistic. And then in the third quarter, you turn around, they're right back in it. Thunder pushed away a little bit. They came flying back. But obviously win it by 6. Just saying, tipped it. 6.5. Thank you very much, Clippers. But Norm ends up with a 31. My biggest problem during this game was Zoobs. It's like you realize you've got a giant 7-foot tall dude who's just like a foot taller than everybody else. Like Zoobs, to be honest, he's only like 6'10", but he's still bigger than quite literally everybody else on that Thunder roster. At one point, I think to the halfway through the third quarter, he'd taken 4 shots. And it's like, I don't know if someone walked up to Tyler and just slapped him in the back of the head and goes, give it to the big dude, you idiot. He's like, oh shit, that's not a bad idea. Ends up with 12 shots. Guess what? He fucking made 9 of them. I don't know about you, but that's good. Give it to the big dude who's not going to miss because everyone's a foot shorter than him. It's basketball. If you're closer to the rim, it's easy to get it in. That's how it works. That's how it's worked for 75 fucking years. Jesus, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Give it to the big dude who's closest to the bucket. Fuck. Anyway, way to lose, Clippers, you idiots. 20-5 for Derrick Jones Jr., 22-14. He just fucking dominated Zoobs down the stretch. It was so easy. Anyway, 17-11-9 for Harden. Shot 5 of 15. Better give it to James Harden more than Zoobs. Idiots. 10-15 for Norm. He went 5-8 from 3, just including that fucking stretch where he was absolutely out of his head. For the Thunders, though, you had 45 for SGA. You had 28, 8 and 6 for J-Dub. He's unreal. And 19 for Dort. Just started splashing threes. I think he started 0 of 3. Ends up 7 of 14 and 4 of 8 from downtown. We need more Dort number plates. And Caruso was putting on a Caruso show, causing all sorts of havoc. He hit 2 threes. He had 12 points and a steal. It's a big win for the Thunder because they don't have Chet. They're basically like, fuck it, we're going small, and it didn't matter. Like, they had Caruso checking checking fucking Zoobs at one point. You're like, Caruso is like not big, but sure, why not? Anyway, Clippers now 6-5, sucked in idiots, and 9-2, the Thunder. And finally, we had a really weird Spurs-Kings game where Wemby just went fucking apeshit. And the Suvlaki King had 23, 12, and 4. 24 for De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan 21, and fuck all else from any of the other Kings. That's your big three. It's like, can we get a big anybody else? Just one other dude. Keegan Murray's like, no. 2 of 7. Kevin Huerta, no. 1 of 7. Like, it was just horrible. I was watching this game going, I get that you're on a back-to-back, but your 3 good dudes are doing good. Why are you guys all doing bad? Stop doing bad, dickheads. Anyway, I'm back to Spurs, so who gives a shit, right? Kings fans, Jim. That's who gives a shit, yes. On a back-to-back, though, you can see this coming a mile away. They win it by 21, 16-96. They run away with it in the end. Wemby just fucking banged. So I'd been giving him shit about his 3-point shooting, but yesterday, because he absolutely laced him and hit 6 or 7, I'm like, well, his last game, and I'm like, I think the worm is turning. He's weirdly streaky. What do you mean weirdly, Jim? He's 7'40". Yeah, he went 6 of 12 from downtown today. So I think I had him in like bet, just saying, for at least 3. And I felt really good about it to the point I'm like, I could do 4. And then, of course, once he flew past 4, I'm like, fucking, I'm an idiot. But anyway, 34-14 with 6 assists and 3 blocks. God damn, Wemby, that is good. I said goddamn. 12 and 11 and 6 for Chris Paul. But they got it everywhere. 13 for Champagne. I brought the champagne. 10 and 5 for Harrison Barnes and a bit of revenge. And what else? Yeah, Keldon Johnson with 11 and 12 for Devin Vassell, who made his return, which is very, very handy for the Spurs as well. Just saying, 3 of 5 from downtown. That team needs more shooting. What's he do? Shoots. They are now 5 and 6. Flip it up and reverse it. The Kings, 6 and 5. Right, that's it. You can choose your own adventure with the, improved performer of the day because we're not going to do the awards on the Tuesdays anymore. I'll tell you what, though, that Wemby game was fucking special, and that SGA one was pretty bloody good too. All right, let's get into it. Should we take a quick break and then do the NBA Cup preview? Yeah, we should. Good thought, Jim. Yeah, not a problem. All right, it'll be right after this.
This is Cam Glidden.
This is Anthony Drimmick.
This is Mitch McCarron.
This is Jason Kadee.
This is Darryl McDonald.
Hey guys, this is Hugh Greenwood.
Yo, what's going on? This is Illy.
This is Mark Worthington, or commonly known as Wortho, and you're listening to NBA Straya.
You listen to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Straya.
All right, this is where we'd usually do the yeah nahs, but on the Tuesday shows, we're trying to make them a bit quicker. And so we're just going to go straight into the NBA Cup preview, and then we'll go preview the games, and then we'll wrap up the Aussies games from today's, because there's a couple of them in there, and they did pretty well. So let's look at it. Are you ready? It is the 2024-2025 NBA Cup. It's back. Remember it last year? When they were like, oh, it's the in-season tournament. And your old mate Jim over here was like, it's the NBA Cup. Just call it the NBA Cup. And they're like, we don't have a name for it. Boom. Next year it's the, guess what? NBA Cup. I'm just saying. I'm an ideas man. And I'm just saying, just make me the Vice President of Common Sense low six-figure salary, I'm laughing. NBA, I'm all yours. Righto, but here is your NBA Cup refresher course. All 30 teams in the NBA. We go into 6 groups because it'd be way too easy just to put it into the divisions, wouldn't it? Hey, do we end up with 8 teams in the actual, breakouts as well? Yes. Yes, we do. Actually, when I think about it, there are only 3 divisions either side, isn't there? Yeah. So they've kind of just done it, but they've not done it in the divisions. Anyway. It's just... Anywho. So we've got 6 groups. And we have 8 teams that go through. So your 3 group winners from East, 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 West, 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 and then 2 wild cards. And the weird cool part is they do that on point differential. So this is where they're trying to make the regular Susan count for more, remember? So they're like, yeah, don't get your head kicked in because that actually goes against your record and your point differential. And it means for good teams, which I'll get to in a second, it's actually important as well because A, if you're playing against each other, you got to try really, really hard. A, you don't want to lose. B, you don't want to get beaten by a lot. And when you play the bad teams in your group, you want to kick their heads in. So it's all about trying all of a sudden. So your 6 groups, 5 teams per group. They each play each other once. They do it on their cup nights, right? Which are Tuesday and Friday, which for us is Wednesday and Saturday. Saturday, that is a great hungover NBA Cup morning, I'll tell you that much. Just like, oh, geez, I'll tell you, geez. Oh, NBA Cup. So, 8 teams go through to the knockout stage, winners and the wild cards, and then we get through to the Final 4 and we go to Vegas. It's pretty good. So I love this because I love the idea of the knockout thing. I love that it's basically built into your schedule. What does annoy me is that they just didn't make it out of the divisions or make it a little bit easier and just like signpost it. But I do like the idea that we have it on the specific days and all the games on that day are your NBA Cup games. And also you get your fancy arena floors, don't you? What is annoying me already is that the really crazy psychotic ones from last year, they've already toned them down. I'm like, you cowards, come on, bring it back. Like the Pelicans one stinks. Remember last year, it was like absolute chaos. It was so awesome. It was gnarly as hell. And now it's like, oh, we've got a bit of navy and a bit of red and a bit of gold. You're like, boring, nerds. Lean into it. Go with the chaos. Like, I love that one from Indy last year. It's just like, check out this giant big streak of blue. And you're like, that's rad. Anyway, so remember, you got to win your group and there's 1 wild card. So let's go through these groups, shall we? East Group A. Philly. Amazingly enough, for their first group game tomorrow, they get Joel Embiid back. Philly have been absolutely horrible. They've lost Maxey already. They have Paul George back. Jared McCain's been playing very, very well. But they get Joel Embiid back. So this group, however, has Philly, New York, Orlando, Brooklyn, and Charlotte, which is actually sneakily competitive. And I think out of all of the groups, if you look at their odds and stuff to get out of the group, this is probably the flattest. Because I think this is New York's to lose, and I'm going to give a pick for each group. But Philly getting Embiid back, and quite literally, the game's been like tomorrow for bloody poor New York versus Philly. Like it suddenly turns into a huge, huge game. And Philly have it at home. So the entire group essentially just hinges on tomorrow's game between, I think, Philly and New York. If Orlando were at full strength, I would have just been backing Orlando to the hilt. I think they're the deepest. I think they're super competitive. I think they're super young and they're super good. But without Balabancaro and Wendell Carter Jr. is dealing with his foot injury, just not quite enough there, right? So essentially for me, this comes down to New York. If they win the first game inside track, they should win the group. The Knicks have got 29% chance to make it out as a wild card, 24% to have a chance to win the entire thing. I think that should be higher. I think this is overrating Philly. I think they're at 39 and 35. So the Magic, probably too high at 23%. Hornets, 15, and the Nets at 13. The Nets are like sneakily better than you think. The Hornets are no pushovers either, especially if you're playing them at home. And that Hornets game tomorrow, I believe, they play Orlando in Orlando, which is sneakily tough to pick. So either way, I think the Knicks, they finally had to go, all right, Karl Anthony Towns up against Joel Embiid. Hashtag spoiler alert from when we look at the games for tomorrow. I think Philly just a little bit like with a Joel Embiid as you bring him back into the thing. We've already seen them suck when they tried to bring Paul George back in. That was with Maxey. Now they don't have Maxey and they've got a underdone Paul George with an undercooked Joel Embiid. I think the Knicks can win that. Therefore, I think they win this group. So I'm taking the Knicks. And because the rest of this group is actually surprisingly competitive, Brooklyn, Charlotte, and Orlando, there's no real easy beats there. So I'm not entirely convinced the second team in this group gets out with the wild card, which would be tough. But if you do have Embiid, maybe you can get him up to speed really, really, really quickly and he can be dominating. I just don't quite see it. East Group B. Gross. Detroit, Indy, Miami, Milwaukee, and Toronto. Yeesh. So the Bucks are playing horrible. Miami don't have Jimmy Butler. I think Indy win this group. They won it last year, Jim. Remember? They made it all the way to the finals, and then the Lakers hung up a banner after beating them because the Lakers are now a clown franchise. But at the same time, if Dame Lillard was healthy, I'd be like, hang on, this could be Milwaukee's chance to get right back on track. But he's already out with a concussion. They do play Detroit tomorrow, though. So maybe, just maybe, if they can get by Detroit the Toronto Raptors, sorry. The Raptors are horrible, so if they can get by Toronto tomorrow at home and hold out for Dame, maybe this is their sort of chance. They might even get Middleton back at some point of the NBA Cup. But really, Indy, despite how up and down they've been, they're the third favorite? Yeah, the third favorite to get out of this group, which I think is crazy because Miami stink. Like, Miami don't know it, and they're too well coached to actually be bad, but they're not good. So I can't quite see them getting out of the thing. Jimmy Butler dealing with an ankle injury. I want absolutely no bar of Miami. I think this is the Pacers just warming back into their season. Like Halliburton's had some pretty good games of late. They're dealing with a couple injuries to the backups and stuff like Nembhard and Naismith, but we saw them wax teams over this weekend. They beat the Knicks pretty handily yesterday. I think the Pacers could lean into this. They have at least, they don't have their first game until this weekend, so they've got a little bit of time to warm up to it. But for them to be the third favorite, I think is crazy. I think they should be at the top. So Indy win it. Milwaukee, if they were healthy, maybe. But without Dame, it gets a lot harder. So let's go Indy. And then East Group C, a very top-heavy one because you have Boston and the Cavs, who are unbeaten. Yes. Yeesh. So you got Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, and Washington. So three of these things are not like the others. The Celtics group to lose, obviously, but the Cavs are unbeaten. So quite literally everything in this one comes down to their game, I feel. So Boston take on Atlanta tomorrow. The cool thing about the NBA Cup, no back-to-backs for teams playing on it, right? So Joel Embiid can play in every game, seemingly, because remember, he doesn't play back-to-backs. But also, it means that the Cavs, who played today, don't play until Friday, or our Saturday's game. So it'd be pretty interesting to see how they go. But I think Boston, Cleveland next week, I want to say that's like the next Tuesday, our next Wednesday maybe. That's a huge game. Will Cleveland still be unbeaten? Probably not. But I think Cleveland and Boston both make it through. So whoever doesn't win the group makes it through as the wild card. Why is that, Jim? It's because the bottom of this group stinks. And this is where your point differential comes into play. Even if you play a really tight game against either Boston or Cleveland, you can beat the sans hell out of Washington and Chicago and Atlanta. So off you go. Boston, Cleveland both should get through that one. Let's go way out west where the sun don't shine. We're going to West. Group A, Houston, the Clippers. It's a lot of James Harden there. Minnesota, Portland, and Sacramento. Every West group is brutal. I'll just tell you that, man. Minnesota, they need to get their consistency right, but I do like their chances to win this. They have got the best odds to get through here as well. The Rockets are also the sneaky chance because you feel like the youth and the depth is definitely something that can help you in something like the NBA Cup, where it's like so many other teams are banged up. Minnesota's trying to figure out who they are, what's playing, who's playing, what Julius Randle does, and how bad can he be. And Houston could just like smoke some teams. especially when Portland's in this one, you're like, cool, if you just put Portland to the sword, and if you get the Clippers on the wrong night and the Clippers just roll over and show you their belly, which they want to do, who knows what could happen. And then you got a floater like Sacramento, who just lose Malik Monk. They lose to the Spurs today, but we know that they're pretty decent. Like, it's a decent big three. So this is a really tough one, but I think Minnesota still has enough to get by and get out of this group. I think Houston is a bit of a smoky, though, to actually win it. And their odds are actually pretty good, just saying, for Houston to get through. So I'm going to say Minnesota and Houston just miss out on a wild card to a team that I'm going to talk about in a second. West Group B, this is OKC, the Lakers, Phoenix without Kevin Durant, San Antonio, and the Utah Jazz. It's a soft J. It's a very soft J this year. Ooh-wee, this is OKC's group to lose, of course. 55% chance of getting out of the group, 43% chance of winning it. They open, I think, with Phoenix without Kevin Durant. It's pretty handy. Just saying, if you're going to play Phoenix, you'd probably want it without one of the 13 best players of all time. So, with that idea in mind, I think OKC stomped through this. The Lakers, though, of course, on a night-to-night basis are wildly, wildly dangerous. So, they open their account, the Lakers, not until next week, I think. Is that? Oh, no, they open it in San Antonio on Saturday. So, if they win that, and if AD's okay, and he can see using his eyes, then they're, of course, pretty dangerous. The Spurs and Jazz are in single digits of getting out of the actual things, and they probably have no chance. The Lakers are dangerous just because now they can ramp it up. They did it last year. I just don't think they get out of this awesome tough group because Phoenix are good, OKC are even better. But OKC losing Chet, it does open the door for the Lakers. I still think OKC probably just get through it, but geez, could be rough. Unless Anthony Davis in that one matchup between OKC and LA just goes absolutely basketball playing pterodactyl and dominates, OKC should win it. But just keep an eye on the Lakers. And then finally, West Group C, it should be Group D because it's the group of death. Dallas, Denver, Golden State, New Orleans, and Memphis. Yeesh. The Pelicans don't have any of their good players, so they're probably cooked. But the Nugs, that is awesome. Give me the Nuggets in every single type of knockout game. Boom. Lock it in. Thank you, Denver. You got the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, hello, who yesterday put up just an insane triple-double that's never been done before. They got a 45% chance of getting out of the group, 26% chance of winning it. Dallas, 24% chance of winning it, 33% chance of getting out of the group as well. And that is where I think I'm going to land. The Grizzlies are super dangerous. We've seen that even without Ja. It doesn't matter, but he is still week to week, so he's probably going to miss the first couple of, at least the first couple of matches of the Grizzlies NBA Cup run. The Pelicans don't have any dudes left. Golden State, however, are favorites to get out of this group, which I think is crazy because I feel like against Denver, against Dallas, I'm probably going to take both of those teams ahead of Golden State. So even though they're favorites to get out of this group, I don't want any bar of the Warriors. Oh, really, Jim? That's the song you've been singing all season? Shush. I think the Nuggets win this group and Dallas get the wild card. I think that's a pretty fun one because I think Dallas, especially when they're playing bad teams, if Dallas do have this tendency to play down to bad teams, and so did Denver. We've seen Golden State go swings and roundabouts as well against some of the bad teams. But if you can put the beat down on the Pelicans and maybe the Grizzlies, and I think Dallas is definitely an offense that can do that. Denver, maybe not so much, but I think Denver just might win them all, so it might not matter. And I think Denver get through, Dallas win through as well with the wild card. So with that in mind, let's do the first round of NBA Cup game previews. Thanks, inadvertent NBA Cup Bane. Not a problem, Jimmy. You're excited about the NBA Cup? I am. I think it's going to be awesome. And I feel like it's kind of snuck up on everybody. And then tomorrow we're going to be like, hey, the court's different. Oh, this is awesome. NBA Cup. Yes. How does it all work again? I'm like, I just told you on today's show. 6 groups, 5 teams, 8 teams go through. 2 wildcards, baby. Wildcard. Pew, 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 pew. All right. So tomorrow's games, we have Atlanta at Boston. Boston are huge favorites in this one. I believe it's 15.5 points. And this is where these lines become a bit funky. Not funky, funky. Because, remember, it's point differential. So you are actually incentivized to kick the crap out of a team like Atlanta. So I don't mind Boston minus 15.5 because I love Dyson Daniels. If they had 5 Dyson Danielses, maybe they cover this line against Boston. They only have 1, however. So I think Boston go absolutely hammer and tongs over the top of Atlanta, especially at home. The 15.5 would usually give me pause, but because it's an NBA Cup game, I'm going Boston. We then have Charlotte at Orlando. Orlando are 6.5-point favorites. I'm just checking all these because I wrote these down a little bit earlier, so they might have changed slightly. Where are they all? Let's find out. NBA, boom. Yeah, 15.5 for Boston. So Orlando are 6.5-point favorites against the Charlotte Hornets. They are at home, Orlando, but I am going to take the Charlotte Hornets to cover that line because I think even though their defense is bad, Orlando's offense is not exactly world-beating without Paolo Banchero. So I think Charlotte can at least get into a bit of a shootout and keep that slightly close with Orlando. So we'll take Charlotte plus 6.5. You've got Suggs up against LaMelo. You've got Greeny, who's out there causing some havoc for the Aussies. But I think Charlotte just have sort of enough on the wings between Spindles, Miller, Bridges. Orlando's got Franz Wagner, hello, and his big pumpkin-headed brother. But still, I'm going to like Charlotte plus 6.5. We have Detroit, Miami. Fascinating game. Detroit are plus 1.5 at home against the Heat. I'm taking Detroit. They have at least a chance of winning this game outright. I'm getting the 1.5 points. Miami have been wildly unconvincing, but Jim, they just got a big win against Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota absolutely cooked that game. I think Detroit can do this. Give me Detroit plus 1.5. You get Orsar Thompson back. You got Kay Cunningham. You've got Jaden Ivey and co. I think they can do it. Let's go. Detroit basketball. Then we have Knicks Philly, which is, as mentioned, chaos because Joel Embiid comes back. Now, when I looked at this, the Knicks were half-point underdogs. Now they are half-point favorites. So that's swung by 1. And nothing has changed. So people have realized, similar to me, yeah, Philly are just bad. But now they get Joel Embiid. It doesn't mean they're going to win. Like, it probably helps. You've got a former MVP back who hasn't played since he loafed around in the gold medal games and sort of stunk it up in the Olympics for the country from which he was not from. His third choice country? Jeez. Anyway, I'm going to take the Knickerbockers because even though they lost to the Pacers the other day, they still have weapons coming out the wazoo, and I like them even in Philly. So I'm going to take the Knicks. What is that? Half point. They're now favorites, so minus 0.5. Then we have Milwaukee hosting the Toronto Raptors. They're 7.5-point favorites. I don't like it, but Giannis just might have 50, and they might just curb stomp Toronto. I don't mind the Raptors in general, but they have not played very well, and defensively, they are one of the worst teams in the NBA, if not the absolute worst. So I think the Bucks might have a bit of a field day, and you see, especially at home, they run right over the top of the Raptors. So we will go Milwaukee. Look for a big, big Giannis game today. Well, tomorrow. Then we have Phoenix, Utah, which is a weird one because you've got no KD, but they're 3.5-point favorites still, the Suns, on the road in Utah, which I'm going to take because they're still good and the Jazz are still bad. Because you've at least still got Brad Beal, Devin Booker. You've still got Nurk, Grayson Allen. It just means we'll just shoot more threes and hope that Devin Booker scores 40. Considering that he'll be guarded by Colin the Sexman Sexton, Keontae George, possibly if he's healthy, and Jordan Jeremy Clarkson, Devin Booker might score 40. So I'm going to go with the Suns. Then we have Dallas Golden State. What did I just say about this one before? I don't mind Dallas in a shootout against basically all the teams in their group, including the Warriors. So Dallas are 2.5-point underdogs in Golden State. I'm going Dallas. Give me the 2.5. You've got Kyrie, who was absolutely en fuego yesterday. You've got Luka, who's playing a little bit too much hero ball, but does have like one just random, like, hang on, what did he just do? Oh my God, he did it to him. Games. He hasn't had a couple of those yet this year, so I reckon there might be one coming down the pipe against Golden State. So give me the Dallas Mavericks. You've got, a bit of size. You've got some length on the edges. And the cool thing is, you know what they're doing? Hey, producer Gerald, you know what they're doing for the return of Klay Thompson? Giving everybody sailor hats. Because he likes to sail. Isn't that nice? Oh. You could also, I don't know, just hose them all down because they're the Splash Brothers or something. I don't know. I'm an ideas, man. Hey, audience, what would you like? Sailor caps or being hosed down? The sailor caps, Jim. Thank you. Okay. And finally, Minnesota, a 9.5-point favorite. That's actually moved as well. It was 8.5. They're 9.5-point favorites against Portland. I love this for Minnesota. After an absolutely los horrible game against Miami, I think they smashed Portland. I don't like it as much as I liked 8.5, but I'm still going to take it. They should go into Portland and demolish them. Look, Portland are feisty, don't get me wrong, but they're also not very good. It's one of those things, you know. Feisty, good. Feisty, good. Never shall the twain meet. Minnesota, though, 9.5. I will still take them. I think there's an Ant-Man game that's just waiting in their wings for him to go absolutely quapang and demolish some teams. So there you go. That is the NBA Cup first round of games for tomorrow. Should be good. I cannot wait. We'll wrap it all up in tomorrow's show. But before we do that, how about the Australian Player Watch for Tuesday, November 12th? We did have a couple of Aussies in action today. We had Josh Giddey, obviously, in that loss to the Cavs. Lose 119, 113. Gids played 31 minutes and shot incredibly well. He went 7-11 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3 and 2 of 2 at the line. He absolutely clanked those free throws as well. Just like dung-da-lung, dung-da-lung. You're like, yeah, get in there. 18 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. That is a beautiful stat line from Josh Giddey. 1 steal, 1 block, the 4 turnovers. You get that on the big jobs, especially in a team as good as the Cavs. But that was a really good game from Gids. Good to see him shooting the 3-ball with confidence as well. 2 of 4 from downtown. Not bad. As mentioned, Ben Simmons got out there coming off the bench for the Brooklyn Nets against the New Orleans Pelicans. They win that one 107-105. He had 6 assists in the first half. And for fans of symmetry, Ben Symmetry, that's not bad, finished with 12 assists. See, he doubled his amount from the first half. So he actually came off the bench. The 22 minutes, he had 6 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists. That's awesome. He had 2 steals, 3 turnovers. He went 3 of 5 from the floor and 3 fouls. So if we're going to do the Ben Simmons fouls, turnovers, made field goals tracker, 28 fouls this season, 26 turnovers, 23 made shots. It's not ideal, but he's getting there. All right, what else did we have? We actually had Jack McVay, a.k.a. Jack McTray, a.k.a. the Unabomber. I don't want to keep explaining that joke. But anyway, Jack McVay got out there in that 107-92 win over Washington. He played for 2 minutes and put up a 2 trillion. So it was zeros across the board. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Didn't bother the scorers, but it's good to see him getting out there. The big problem for the Houston Rockets, and from an Aussie point of view, is that Jock Landale did not play in that win over Washington. He was out getting an MRI on his shoulder. So hopefully the big fella is okay. Love to see big rock'em sock'em block'em jock'em Landale back very, very soon. And Alex Dukas did not get out there against the Clippers in that 134-128 win. But that's all right. He'll be fine. He's very, very good. And there you go. That is Australian Player Watch for today. Bang. All right. And that's actually the show for today as well. So we'll be back on deck tomorrow. How good's that going to be? Oh, bloody good, Jim. Bloody good. Before we go, though, I did actually mention yesterday that there was a run of stats on the one that our man's Joker surpassed yesterday. And if I can bring it back up, like it was a very, very cool array of differing stats that, oh no, I've lost it. That's good. I just might not bother then. But it was like, yeah, Wilt Chamberlain. So as I mentioned, was it the 37, 18, and 15 that Joker had yesterday? No one's ever done that. But like Wilt had like a 35, 21, and like 15. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's pretty good. He just didn't quite score as many points as the Joker did. But like that, the names on that list are insane. And like Jokic is just like right up there and had the most, again, as I said, unique triple doubles are awesome. So very, very cool. All right, but that is it for today. I hope you like the quicker Tuesday shows. We'll keep on doing this one just because we sort of run out of time on the Tuesdays with the, now that the clocks have turned in the States, everything just gets a little bit later. And it just means that we're running super, super late into the day. But you can get around NBA Straya on Twitter, Facey, IG, and of course TikTok and YouTube. Go smash the subscribe on the YouTube, chuck in some comments. Go like all the videos. Producer Gerald's out there working his bloody little hands to the bone, I'll tell you. Putting up all the stuff that we do. NFL Australia as well. Myself and Gaz are about to go tape that, so I better bloody hurry up, I'll tell you. Chopping up each week about the NFL in sufficiently funny fashion, I think. Check us a rating review on your Apple Podcast, your Google Podcast doesn't exist. Spotify, that's right. YouTube Music, whatever weird app you use on your Android phone. I know there's a lot of you out there. They're all weird, and I don't understand it, and I'm not going to pretend to. But rate, review, star, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I don't have to fight you, but I will. I keep saying it every day when I do the drop-off picks for the morning. I don't want to fight you, but I will. Like, I'm right here. Let's go. Anyway, I love ya. I love ya. Good old Tism song. Anyway, big thanks always go to From Oslo for the intro and outro song, as well as House Hatch, Joshua Delarendis, Fascinated Gold Mines, Ramshackle Army, Iowa, Sex Jedi, Green, and Doze is there behind all the tunes you hear throughout the show. Smash them all on Bandcamp, Triple J, Facey, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to your tunes through. Support Australian bands. We do here on NBA Straya. And of course, get around our other shows. AFLW, today's show. It's the AFLW Finals. Absolutely awesome gear at the moment. NFL Australia, as I mentioned. Cricket Today podcast. They just lost to Pakistan. It's hilarious at the moment. The boys just lit into them. What else? Football Today podcast for your soccer. And hold all tickets for your GGs. That's important. It's spring. There's lots of horsies. And that's it. We will catch you tomorrow. Until then, this is NBA Australia saying, look after yourselves, would you? And little Zena!